getting to trends faster. They're getting more exposure. It's such more of a personal connection that's changing the whole dynamic than it was just typically at the top with, say, celebrity or designer, or at the bottom with the skating crowd moving up. It's just everybody's moving so much more connected that it's changing it.
And the content creators as well. I think we shouldn't forget them, because the content creators and the way content is created due to digital has fundamentally changed forever. Who sort of owns the opinion in the fashion space? And I think that's something that we're all trying to figure out, because there isn't a clear answer to that. Is it the magazines? Is it the bloggers? And I think that's kind of the interesting question to us and to the brands, because it's very hard to find out.
But it's kind of a combination of all those things, right? You're starting to see that there's so much information. That's where curating is becoming so important, right? And so that there's so many different things coming on different levels that it's great to see. I mean, we at Rue La La have a partnership with Elle, and it's wonderful for our members because the Elle editors will curate based on a theme. And what is the perfect little black dress in a flash sale? Or we just had dressing for Valentine's Day. And it's that added sort of curation or editorial that really makes the shopping that much more exciting.
I definitely agree. It's just in terms of creating we're in the business of creating brand stories and brand narratives, and sort of aggregating isn't enough. Therefore, we need to have this very strong understanding for brands in sort of defining their DNA. They need to understand who they are and which sort of social media channels, which e-commerce channels, and which content channels are the right ones for them, their audience, in order to really sort of bring across their message and define themselves and differentiate themselves from others. Because there's way too many Me Too solutions out there that we're chasing, quite often call it trend.
I also think a lot of this comes down to someone asking a simple question. It's always amazing to see some random person that you've never spoken to ask the right person a question, and all of a sudden there's hundreds of people weighing in on a topic. And it is not that this big influencer started the conversation or a celebrity tweeted or anything like that. It's some random person just had an idea or sparked a blog post or whatever. I mean, it's really engagement at every level, not just up or down.
And why do you guys think that is? That people, social media users, are more interested in people and individuals as opposed to sometimes brands themselves? And do you think that users are more immune to marketing than an actual story or the conversation?
I think they're definitely immune to marketing. I mean, there's great mistrust in business, government, and media as a general sense. And so when you go into a social media site, there's authenticity, and there's a really easy mechanism to find people who share your values or your point of view. And so that affinity is an underlying trust mark, so that people will take what they have to say at face value. And so marketing messages, I think, have to become story-based. They have to be emotional, and they have to find a way to resonate with the audience in a way that's never been in the marketplace before.
Yeah, for us, social media is a conversation, right, as Aliza was pointing to. And our members at Rue La La, they want to talk to us. They want a conversation back. They don't want to always just know what's for sale that day on the boutiques. They want to answer what they think about style trends. They want to get in the conversation and engage. And that's a very important component to social media. And I also think because so many people want to engage, that you do have curation at many levels, right? So whether it's personal style or bloggers or magazines, it really is bringing both that combination of letting people all in on the conversation as well as have the opportunity for editorial curation.
Oh, okay. I think it's also about, and I even keep this mentality from a press release standpoint, thinking about what you want to read. It's like you're creating content. Well, would you want to read it? If you put out a press release, would you want to read it? Sometimes I see a press release that, we've done, and I'm like, I don't want to read that. I don't even want to edit it. So why am I sending it out to the media? So I think it's that too.
Well, and I think that's a really interesting point, because if brands do that, they're authentic. Then they are relevant, and then marketing is relevant. And because that's when we have the strong partnerships with the publisher in order to create the right messaging that the consumers want to engage with. But they see through any kind of BS that we put out there today. And I think that is actually helping the quality of the marketing to improve massively. And that's what we need to do from the agency side with our brand partners. If we don't do that, the consumer will dismiss us.
I think Aliza's point is really well taken. I mean, we live in this era of great time poverty, and so if you want my attention, you have to earn it. And so if you're asking for people's attention, you have to deliver entertainment, education, or information. And if you don't deliver it, then you're not worth, then you haven't earned their attention.
Or conversely, you have to listen. And I think that's the flip side of it, because there's so much conversation happening that you haven't started that you can be a part of. And if you're not listening, you miss it.
And it's such an opportunity. That's the upside as well, right? If it's a two-way dialogue, there's opportunity to learn on both sides. There's opportunities for your customers to show you what they're looking for and what the motivators are, and there's opportunities for you to hopefully introduce things to them that are different and fun and innovative.
And brands have to be committed to it. You need to understand what it actually means to create content if you're going to go into that space. Or if brands are partnering with e-commerce sites, and if they're partnering with social sites, you need to do it. You need to want to do it, and that means you need to put the right resources behind it. And that quite often is something that we see a shortfall from brands. And then the messaging is as well not as cohesive.
But to that point, which is true, you also have to make sure that you are supported by people who trust that you know what you're doing, because so much of this is being spontaneous and being able to respond and react. And I think that inevitably a lot of brands, not just fashion but across the world, have restrictions that limit their ability to really put out a press release in a timely fashion or react to a controversy or whatever it may be. And I think that you can see those brands really suffer in the space.
You're absolutely right, and that's the biggest challenge for brands, is how much do we give away how much do we open it up to the public? And I think that's where we actually came, especially in the luxury space, a very far way in the last sort of 3 years, where brands started to sort of not allow anything or any kind of Facebook integration 3 years ago, and now some of the high-end luxury brands all have Facebook and Twitter integrated into their websites, and I find that quite fascinating, and it will continue to go that way, for the brands to find their balance in how much they want to get consumers involved. Because there's also the aspirational part that we have to consider with a lot of the luxury brands, and they do want to make sure that they're still aspirational and not too democratic and mainstream.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe that. Sorry.
What's your reservation?
I feel, and I've always felt this way, whether it is a hierarchy in an office, title-wise or whatever, I think that people want to be a part of something. Okay, and maybe no, you can't afford the $10,000 dress, but maybe you can afford the fragrance. And I think that opening up the gates to everyone and making people learn about the brand in a way that they feel comfortable with and not intimidated by, and not, oh my God, I'll never be able to own that, I think is more of the way to go, or at least that's how I feel, because I don't want to ever feel uncomfortable. I would never want to walk into a store and feel like, oh my God, they're looking at me like they know I can't buy anything. And I think our stores do an amazing job in making any single person that comes in, whether it's Donna Karan Collection or DKNY, they're psyched to see you, and I think it makes a difference. I don't think you need to intimidate to rule.
I think it's slightly different, though. I mean, I think that those traditional badges of high-end labels and designer clothing, since the 2008 recession, there's kind of this reflective moment among consumers, and I think there's sometimes those labels were once really admired and aspired to, and we would look at people and we'd say, oh, we imagine their portfolio, where they live, what they do. And I think in the backlash of this economic fallout, people look at very opulent displays of wealth with some suspicion, slightly weary about, is that a homeowner that my tax dollars had to bail out their mortgage? Was that from a corporation that mismanaged their funds? And so I think there's kind of a much more common sense approach to consumers, and I think that's why these flash sales are so popular, because consumers are saying, I'm savvy, I'm sophisticated, I'm well-informed, so well-informed that I got this extraordinary deal on this opportunity. And so I think there's kind of a nuance in terms of how people look at brands and what it says about them,
There's definitely a nuance. I mean, I think what brands sort of need to have entry points at all levels, right? But they also need to make sure that if you're sort of a high level. If you buy a $5,000 dress, you want to have different sort of access to the brand and experience the brand in a different way than someone that buys a lipstick. And that's the difficulty and the nuance of the brand that we need to achieve. You need to have levels of entry points, and that's where you can embrace gaming components. That's where you can sort of embrace these new technologies in ways to leverage them in a very innovative way to actually give something special to all the consumers, no matter where they come and touch your brand.
But I think in response to you, I think that I would say if you're a fashion consumer and you really are passionate, you know there might be a limited amount of X bag. I don't care who you are or if you have to put off rent for a month, you will get that bag because you lust after it. And I think that emotional response to shopping, Sarah Connelly, I'm looking at you. I think that it's what is why fashion is so powerful, and not to say that, the car industry isn't, but I think that it moves you to your knees. You must have it. And I think that thank God, no matter where the economy goes, at some level, you still feel that way, whether it's a new lipstick or a new car or a new bag.
And that passion is what creates a community, right? And so it's that community that within the social circles allows to have that voice, share that passion, share that excitement. Because when you get that bag, you want to scream upside down and stamp your feet and make sure all your friends know.
And then you tweet it.
You tweet it out. And that's what the power of the social does. It lets your friends and the rest of the world in on your fun. And I think that's a big part of any brand experience. You want people to be in on the fun.
Some of the experience itself is the storytelling that comes with it. That this bag was exclusive. That I was able to get one of the few that were released in the market. I waited in line. I did my research. I was in the right place at the right time.
Sure.
And part of our message is that in of itself is part of the status equation. Is being able to have access to it.
Yeah,
Not the
definitely.
bag alone, but the story that goes with it.
I think it's a big part of the storytelling.
According to a recent Stylecaster story, if New York Fashion Week seating were determined by Klout score, Anna Wintour would be sitting in the back, and the lovely Kim Kardashian would be sitting in the front. Do you think the digital voice and the social voice has changed or is changing the power dynamic of the fashion industry? And how do you think these shifts, if any, affect trends and trend forecasting?
Well, I wrote a blog post on this. I don't know if you saw it, Simone.
Sorry.
Okay, so Klout. Kind of have a love-hate relationship with Klout. I think on many levels, Klout has been extremely intuitive on all of us who participate in the social space. I happen to say that I'm dying or dying for, or I die a lot. And apparently Klout thought I was an expert in horror one month because of that. So that's when I started to really think about to have anyone judge me. I don't care. Whatever. You can all have your clout. I don't care. I don't need mine. I could just be a loser, which I was, by the way. My clout score went down to 10. Oh, I have lipstick on here. Aria, as I told you I would.
Well, it's not mine.
Okay. So at the end of the day, in response to your question, I think that social media is an amazing opportunity to involve the world, sort of like Stylecaster, Style for the People. At the same time, I think we need to remember the people who have really worked their entire careers to become experts in a certain field, whether that's fashion or technology or education. And yeah, Kim Kardashian may have a larger clout score, but at the end of the day, I'm not looking to her for fashion advice. I'm looking to the people who have trained and studied and earned that respect.
I don't want to see Kim Kardashian anywhere. But I think what has changed is that the people who actually have a voice, and it's exactly what you're saying, there's 14-year-old bloggers out there that are invited to the fashion shows because they're able to attract an audience. Because
Not mine.
Because it's important what they say. We have Lancôme doing brand partnerships with makeup artists from the middle of nowhere, but they have a unique voice. It's those unique voices that we look for, whether it's in fashion or in luxury or in retail in general. And those are the people who now have a stage, and they should be highlighted in addition to the sort of formerly slightly dusty sort of fashion industry. And I think that's what mixed it up. And I think we're now in a time where actually the balance is getting better and better.
You know, though, I think it raises a really interesting question because just because you have the highest Klout score, you're the greatest number of followers on Twitter, I'm not sure that necessarily translates into the greatest influence. I mean, I think of the people, Ford did a partnership with Malcolm Gladwell last year. We were talking to him about social media, and he said, I'm not on it. He said, I don't use social media. You know, and here's like New York Times bestseller 4 times over, who says, I find that social media is an important platform for those people who don't otherwise have a voice, but I have plenty of other platforms in which to be heard. And so I think that you have to be careful about not limiting yourself just to that one medium. Because there's a
distinction.
Yeah.
All right, team. Q&A time, or as I like to call it, bonus time. 8 minutes of heaven. Go for it. Come on. You want me to ask a question? Who in here thinks that Ali looks like Ewan McGregor? Spot on, right?
A little bit.
Girls, he's taken. All right, now let's start some questions.
Thanks, Ari, really.
David Goldberg, Stylecaster.
Hey, and this was in Cannes. So, Ali, you know, I think that you have a very interesting perspective on an intersection of publishing, brand, and luxury. And I'd just be curious to hear your perspective, in particular, on how luxury brands working with publishers are helping to influence what we need to perceive them as.
So guys, again, the question is about luxury brands, the influence on publishing. And for those of you who don't know, Ali heads up a very important division of a major advertising holding company called WPP, has a very unique position in the organization.
It's actually, yeah. So I think it's a great question, and it's that power shift that we started to earlier on kind of look at. When you speak with someone from Mr. Porter, as I did the other day, they see themselves as a media company. So it's what does that say? And I think, you know, when you look at the search for fashion, for products, where do you start? Do you start with the own site of the fashion brand, or do you go to the retailer directly because they're well curated, or do you go to your friends and colleagues? And I think that's again, I wish I would have a better answer, but I think that's the answer lies in every sort of brand has to find its own way and sort of create the own customer journey because they know their consumer really well. So I think one of the questions we wanted to talk about earlier, where trends come from, it's people. It's just people. It's how we behave, and we need to read that really, really well. And if we do so, we understand the people that want to buy into our brand story, and then find the intersection and hit the right balance between content, commerce, and social and other tools. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And just to agree with you, I mean, I think it's people and it's conversations, right? And so it's just a change in the way that we can access all of this influence and let people be part of it, whether they're curating on their own or whether they are discovering new influencers every day, but letting them, as this more flux of information comes out, people will be selective on who those influencers are and who really has influence in specific topics of space.
But I also think that a brand has to go to where people are. You're not going to wake up and think, oh my God, I must go on DKNY today. Have to. You're going to go check your Facebook, you're going to check your Twitter, and I think that's why everyone is in the spaces we are right now. And I think that whether people like it or not, if you're not there, you're really not there. And I think that that's something that people were really reticent about and sort of like, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it, I'm not going on Facebook, I'm not doing Twitter, I don't get it. I think at the end of the day, if you're a company and you're not there, someone will be speaking on your behalf, and it'll probably be your competitor.
Too true. D. Solomon.
So one of the things that never came up in this conversation is the notion of scale. And I think it's really interesting to think about it because Rue and DKNY, you don't need to get that many people interested in what you do to really make a dent in your revenue. But when you talk about Ford, which is a huge car company, and WPP, which is the largest media placement company in the world, things have to reach, to your metaphor of the bubbling pot, that's a pretty big pot to make a difference. And I'm wondering, I'd love to hear, from Ford's perspective, how important that influencer is in your world and how it affects your results.
So the question is about scale and how influencers work on scale because Ford has such a large global footprint. Our point of view on trends is really quite different. So the example I give within Ford, when we define trends, we're talking about something very slow moving. As I said, it's deep-rooted value, attitude, or behavior. And the example I often give is that denim. If you think about denim, this is my quintessential example, is that denim is a trend. And if you think about its roots from the 1900s, it was highly utilitarian, very durable, often used as a work uniform. And it was kind of a poor man's kind of day-to-day uniform. And today, denim is high fashion. And so that reflects in the last 100 years plus that the values, attitudes, and behaviors. I mean, you can wear them to interviews, you can wear them to the nicest restaurants, you can wear it into the office. So our attitudes and behaviors have changed towards denim. But when you start thinking about high-rise, low-rise, skinny cut, wide leg, all of those things, those are fads. And in our world, those things change too quickly that we can't, if we're watching things that change that seasonally, then we know we're watching the wrong things. For us, we need to look at influences that move much slower. So we're looking at what's on the social horizon, what are the technological innovations that we can expect to see, how will the economy react to that, will there be environmental fallout from that, and who will be the political winners and losers. So we imagine those types of contexts and figure out what are the key influences in those arenas, how might they intersect, and what would that mean for consumers in terms of mobility, how will they want to get around. So for instance, if we talk about trends in growing population, and where the people will, there are 7 billion people in the world today, and in a couple of decades we'll be at 8 billion. And the parts of the world that will have the largest growth in population are the parts of the world that are least capable of handling it in terms of space and natural resources. So if you think about what mobility means, you have to think about what does that mean in a mega city of 10 million people or more? How will people in Shanghai move about? How will people in Mumbai move about? And that'll have implications on how they work, where their education takes place. So those are the key influences that we use in our time frame.
I'd say we got 2 more. All right, young lady.
My question is about brand journalism. I had a discussion at my office just yesterday about whether or not consumers actually see it as authentic, and if they were sort of going to eventually tune it out from you. We have advertising, no offense to the network of WPP, but I'm just curious to know from your perspective, do you think the consumer actually feels the social media conversation brand journalism is authentic, and how long do you think that will last?
So the question, just so you guys all heard, is about authenticity and brand journalism, which I could preach for hours about, but I'm going to let you guys take this one.
I think that's the question best asked to the people who follow. I mean, I don't know how many people here read dknyprgirl.com. It's a blog about things that need more than 140 characters. Oftentimes has nothing to do with fashion at all and is more of my stream of consciousness. So I think that, I don't know, I mean, I think that you hope that people recognize the transparency and the honesty and the sincerity, but really that's something that you guys need to tell me rather than I need to tell you.
Another point, too, I think that lends to authenticity is you need to be authentic, good and bad, right? So you need to, we have a Twitter handle that talks about trends and fun and great, and we're so sorry that New England didn't win the Super Bowl this weekend.
I think this is the wrong audience for that. Not sure you saw the parade outside for the State of Style Summit.
I know, but just say we're sorry. But we also have a Twitter handle that's concierge, that just is solely dedicated to if someone has a problem, if someone's tweeting about a bad customer service experience, because you know what, they happen, and that person is authentic and real, and her name is Amy, and she's like, okay, listen, I'll take it back, I'll buy you a glass of wine, we are really sorry, you know, and that's, I think, really important for the authenticity, and that type of stuff keeps longevity. So I think there's twofold. One is having that dialogue and always keeping it relevant and fun and interesting, because no one wants to be in a dialogue too long if it's not fun and interesting. And then the other part is being authentic on the other side, especially we find with like the Twitter concierge. It's a very
I'm going to set up that account today because I have to do that also. So someone else is going to do that part now.
I'll introduce you to Amy. She's fantastic.
And part of my role is to work with an investment we have in Vice, and I have to mention that based on, to this question, because if they wouldn't have created the relevant sort of authentic content. Consumers would have seen through. It's kind of what we said earlier in the panel here and there, but I think consumers understood this is great content. It is enabled by a brand, and then that's absolutely fine. And then it's actually something that is seen very much in favor of the brand.
All right, amazing panel. We have one more question, so this better be good. You're wearing a yellow jacket, so you stick out. So that's just make it good. If it's bad, you have to sit back down.
That's a good question. I think what Aliza was saying earlier about the people who have experience and who have studied this and are kind of the cornerstones of this industry, I think that the bloggers belong in the conversation just as much as Susie and Kathy do. But I tend to lean towards them. Obviously, I'm a biased party, so you know you can get that out of the way. I feel like they know fashion, they've studied fashion, and they always dig deeper than some bloggers for me personally. So I think that they will remain in the conversation because they're just another option, you know, for users. So that's where I think they stand. Does that answer your question?
The fashionable expert is not going anywhere, I think is the moral of the story. Guys, please, huge round of applause. An amazing panel. All right, so while we resituate for the next panel, I'm going to invite up a very special guest, Matthew Miller. Matthew Miller. Wait until you guys hear about this. So this is Matthew Miller. He's going to wave. He's wearing a bow tie. So one of the things I've realized in a role as CEO is we develop really strange habits. And one of mine is I always ask my team to follow me. And we're very absent. CEOs are a very absent-minded species. So I'm walking, and I go to Matthew, I go, follow me. We're going to take you on stage with me. And I walked right into the bathroom. He goes, I'll wait here. I was like, whatever. So anyways, I want you guys to all meet Matthew Miller. One, because he's wearing a bow tie, and I think bow ties are awesome. Two, more importantly, Matthew Miller is one of our rock star JTMs at Stylecaster. Matthew has a huge responsibility. He's heading up all informational requests for our first ever State of Style report that we did with Empirica Research and the 92nd Street Y. It is groundbreaking research, proprietary, never before seen data. I see David Neal from Empirica's. So happy to have him join us. We're talking about Stanford, Harvard, University of Miami, PhDs that compiled this report. So if you guys are interested, please speak with Matthew. We're going to be revealing different statistics throughout the day. There'll be different information leaked to the press over the coming days. There's a lot of reports out there that cost $5,000, $10,000, $50,000. Like this ticket, like our mission, Style to the People, we want to keep this price point accessible. So the report is available for $999, less than $1,000. So if you guys are interested, Matthew has more information. There's probably more information in your sweet limited edition tote bags, which I'll talk to. So Matthew, a little dance? There you go. Let me go get you the next panel.